Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome once again to another exciting IncrediChat brought to you by Incredicon, the Hudson Valley's family-friendly comic and pop culture festival. I'm Mike, as always, and tonight we have another really great guest, and we're excited to talk to him, a good friend of ours here at Incredicon, and we've done so many great things with him, you know, school visits, Comic-Cons, all this great stuff. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Bring our special guest in, Sesame Street artist and educator, the great Lewis Henry Mitchell. Hello, Lewis.
Hey, Mike. How are you, buddy?
I am great. So welcome to IncrediChat here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. Really excited.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. And I know this has been like a long time coming. We've been going back and forth to get and do something. And this crazy pandemic thing, you know, we're getting to do it now, which is awesome. One of the things we like to talk about here on IncrediChat is getting to know about artists and what they do. So for those people who are tuning in, and I know there's going to be a lot of fans from the world of Muppets and Sesame Street who already know your work, but for those folks who don't know your work, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became an artist and how did you get to Sesame Street?
I know. Can you tell me how? Yeah, I know. I hear the song all the time, and I love to answer that question because I have an answer. Yeah. So, well, again, I'm the creative director of character design, and right now, what that means is that I design new Muppets. I design, I do a lot of artwork, a lot of licensing artwork and things like that. Reviewing a lot of artwork that comes in for publishing, and I mean, just a lot of different things. But probably the most fun I have is sometimes doing the photo shoots because I direct all the photo shoots and I get to actually play with the actual Muppets. It's really fun. It is work, but it never feels like it. And to be honest, this is a real special thing for me because Jim Henson is the person that kind of turned me on to being creative. I mean, all kids draw, and I was really into doing it. And my sister used to draw, so I used to copy her stuff. But then I was watching whenever the Muppets were on Ed Sullivan, I would always, run to the TV set to watch it, whenever the Beatles were on or the Rolling Stones. I didn't care about those guys. But when the Muppets came on, I would jump in front of the television set with my toy. Yeah, exactly. And I was watching. And then after the Muppet segment, Jim Henson would come out to shake Ed Sullivan's hand. But I didn't care about that guy. I was like a little kid. I didn't know who that was. But one day he came out and he still had Kermit. Kermit was a lizard, more like a lizard-like character back then. So he still had him on his hand. And something snapped in my head. You mean a man was doing that? And that was it. So, I mean, I was thrown into this wonder world of just being creative and trying different things. And because Jim Henson was so generous, he actually did different shows to show how he did his things. I guess the first big one was the Muppets on Puppets that came out in 1970.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I couldn't believe my eyes. And Sesame Street, I think, had just been out for a little while at that point. But I had seen him on Jimmy Dean or with Ralph the dog, and I was just so excited about his work, and that kind of started me. It put me on this path toward him. I didn't know it at the time because I wasn't a big fan. I love what he was doing, and of course, I would steal my sister's socks, and I don't tell her. So this day, she doesn't know I was going to drawers and because they had colorful socks. They were really pretty. They shouldn't have had such pretty, colorful socks. They would make perfect puppets. My socks were all black or brown. Yeah. But anyhow, I did all that as really as a means of getting toward that work. And ultimately to become the creative director of character design for what he considered his most important work. I mean, he really, Sesame Street, he was very protective of that. And I mean, it's an honor to be one of the people in charge of, kind of a keepsake, and trust it with this precious jewel. The whole world cherishes Sesame Street.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been working? Because obviously you mentioned Jim. Did you ever get the chance to meet him, or did you come in after he passed?
The thing is, I think I was in the building. They had the brownstone they used to have on 69th Street, I think it was, or 67th Street. And I was with my son, and I said, "Hey, Mike, this is where the Muppets are." I said, "Let's go in. Maybe we can meet Jim Henson." I just walked in randomly, and I said, "They were such nice people." because I said, is Mr. Henson? Oh, yes, he is. May I have your name? Louis Mitchell. Do you have an appointment, sir? So no, I just want to meet. So, well, I'm sorry, sir. You can't just walk in and meet.
Oh wow!
But my thing is, we got to sit down they had a beautiful mural in the background of the Muppet Theater, the seating area, and they had a row of seats there. So my son and I sat there and we took pictures. It was fun. We didn't get to see Jim Henson. But you know what? 2 weeks later, he died.
Oh my God!
2 weeks later, that was a blow, man. I mean, that was the guy that really triggered the creative energy in me, the creative spirit. He triggered it, and I always wanted to meet him. And then in a big way, I know I didn't get to meet him, but because of the legacy he's left and his family, his kids, especially Cheryl and Heather, got to be not real close with them, but one of the greatest moments was to meet Jane Henson. When I started doing photo shoots, Jane would come downstairs in the studio and watch me work. The first time I was nervous. Jane, who was watching? It was just like having Jim Henson down there. But I said, Jane, is everything okay? It's, oh no, Louis, I just love to watch you work. And that meant so much to me. So, yeah. I hope I answered your question with all that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I just want to say we got some people already watching us. We got Joe Ryan, Anthony Thompson. Anthony Thompson here actually has a comment, which I'm going to put up here on the screen. And we can talk a little bit about this. Louis, you've said Cookie Monster is your favorite character. Are you happy with how he's been gaining popularity in recent years?
Absolutely. I mean, gaining popularity. He's never stopped gaining popularity. People really love him a lot. And then I'll tell you the reason why I love Cookie Monster. It's not because he loves cookies. I mean, I love cookies, but
he doesn't, right?
And I believe me, I'm a genuine fan because I got him all over the place, man. He's always around with me somewhere. But the reason I love Cookie Monster so much because he would give away his last cookie. People don't realize how much he loves his friends more. He should be called Friend Monster because he loves his friends more than cookies. And there were a couple of episodes to that effect. So yes, because you can be passionate about, you can be that passionate about something, but still, give it away and be loving about it. You don't have to be a jerk. There are people that they're passionate about something, they'll step over their own mother to get to it. But Cookie Monster, like I said, there were segments where he, it's one time there was an older Muppet, her name was Lulu, and she said, "Well, Cookie Monster, let me just, I can break it in half. We can both have half a cookie." He said, no, that's okay. You can have it. Somehow me okay with that. Man, that just touched my heart so much. I already loved him, but that really just nailed it,
Yeah.
Yeah, Cookie Monster's my favorite, and he's the greatest, not just my favorite Muppet, my favorite character of all time, because of that very fact that his passion doesn't stop him from being loving.
Yeah, and I mean he's one of those classic characters that, Sesame Street has been around for 50 years, and they've really had such a diverse and immense group of characters that have passed through. But Cookie Monster, you got Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, the Count, Grover. These were the characters that were there in the beginning, and obviously they've been joined by characters now like Elmo and Abby and Julia, stuff like that. And we'll definitely talk about Julia in a minute. So your artwork, and again, we have a bunch of people who are watching this now. Your artwork, really, how did you learn to draw? Because your style is so intricate when you draw these Muppet characters, like, with the fur or the feathers. Like, how did you learn that process?
Well, you know what? The fur and the feathers is kind of interesting because once I started doing the photo shoots, I got in so intimately close with them because I have to pose them myself. Mm-hmm. Each character has their own fur texture, or if it's in case of Big Bird, the feathers,
Yeah.
And because I was so intimately involved with posing them and directing the photo shoots, I got to really see how beautifully made these characters are. So I was looking at them deeper than normal. So when they asked me to draw one of the characters, actually, no, I decided I wanted to draw Big Bird in a very realistic style, see if I could do a vectorized version. Vector means, like Adobe Illustrator, that kind of thing. So I was doing that, and it was coming out so good. And I said, there's something to this. And then one of my coworkers saw that and said, hey, can you do like all the characters like this? And we could do that as a guide. I said, yeah. So I went ahead and I did all of them in a very, very detailed. But, all kids draw, but I got a lot of encouragement. My mom is like the greatest person. She was just the greatest cheerleader I ever had in my entire life. You know, she passed away a few years ago, but she was 98 years old, and she was she had a full life and everything. And so because of her, she kept giving me books, and every time she saw me interested in something, she would buy like this whole encyclopedia of just animals, and I was devouring that thing, just drawing from there. So just practicing a whole lot and just really loving it, finding out that that's one of the gifts that I have is drawing. So I just kept going, and then I discovered somebody named Neil Adams. He was
yes,
still is a great comic book artist. He's like my papa bear in a big way, because he hired me when I was 17 years old to start working with him, and he was inking my pencils. I just to this day.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it just blew me away. He was really generous and encouraging. I mean, he's a tough guy. He his standards are very high, and if you don't meet those standards, he's going to let you know. But he's also a great teacher. But so from Neil Adams, I discovered Norman Rockwell. And Norman Rockwell, I mean, again, and the thing is that Norman Rockwell is Neil Adams' favorite artist. So it was just like a nice little legacy there, a little line of lineage of. So yeah, it was really an exciting thing to study how other artists were doing things, especially Neil Adams, Norman Rockwell. And to this day, I have my comic book box right here, and the top box is all like Neil Adams stuff. I have a whole collection of Norman Rockwell books in my library, and I still look at them and look at it, still inspiring. And as a matter of fact, I think I told you I'm on the board of directors at the Norman Rockwell Museum, so that is great to be able to give back that in that way too, because so I just learned from looking at great artists. Those are not the only two artists. I mean, I looked at a lot of different people. I mean, Jack Davis and Mort Drucker and just a whole lot of other artists. I mean, even Rembrandt, who was Norman Rockwell's favorite, was Rembrandt. So yeah, I just looking at other artists, drawing a whole lot. Even to this day, every morning I get up very early, and I part of my morning routine is to sit and draw. Before I start doing it in my work, especially now, with all the COVID stuff, we're all working from home. But it's my home studio. I don't like the reason I'm home, but there's no place better than my home studio to work. It's my sanctuary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that actually brings up a good question. We're gonna get to it later, but you mentioned it now. So, as an artist, do you find this whole situation that we're in right now, as with COVID, how has that inspired you being home, working as you said in your sanctuary? How has that guided your art? How has that make you think more? Because I mean, obviously, being out as an artist, you're outside in the real world, taking all these bits and pieces from your surroundings, and then we were in quarantine for months. How did that affect you as an artist?
Well, again, I live in my head a lot, so there's a whole world going on in there that I'm always trying to put down on paper. So even though I do love to go outside and walk, and I still do that, but it really disturbed me. And as a matter of fact, not to get too deep into it, but when a lot of people were passing away, when at the peak of this whole thing, a lot of people were dying every single day. And as much as I love being in my studio and I have a good time in here, that was always not even in the back of my head. It was a lot of times in the front of my head, thinking about, man, when is this ever going to go away? And what I actually did was I started this series of drawings because I like to draw on the subway, and I noticed that there were a lot of people. This is before COVID. A lot of people were so comfortable. And the New York City subway, it has a pretty bad reputation, and not that there's not a reason for that, but the thing is, I love it. And it can be it's very convenient. It's a lot cheaper. If you take a cab to go into the city and take a train, there's a big price difference in there. Absolutely. But the thing is, so I see these people and they're very comfortable. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do a series of drawings of the people who are the most comfortable on the trains. See, like we're at home. Some of them are really like laid out and everything like that. This one couple, I thought they were homeless, but they had these beautiful clothes on and everything like that. And I got them close. They looked like they were just very, very comfortable, perfectly asleep, like they were home.
Yeah.
I just started sketching all these. And it's odd because the last one what I did was I sketched on the train, but then I would take a picture of my phone. It's legal to take pictures with your phone as long as you don't have it set up with professional lights and things like that.
Precisely.
So I took snapshots of certain people that I said, I'm going to do a nice finished drawing at home. The last person that I drew was this big black guy, looking really a powerful dude, and he had a mask on. So we had heard things about this virus that's going around. I wasn't wearing a mask. Most people, I think he was the only one on the train wearing a mask. And again, this is before the shutdown, before anything like that, because obviously I was on the train. Yeah. And I didn't realize that last drawing, 2 weeks later, we were shut down. And first it was going to be the comfort of the subway, I was going to call it. But then I said, I got to call it something like the calm before the COVID, because that last drawing was like a premonition of what would come. I had no idea whatsoever that was going to be this bad. So I did all 12 drawings. I'm seeking to see where I can get them published. But
so that was the next thing. Is like, I assume you're going to put these together as some kind of collection. Yeah. Wow. No, I
wrote a whole essay for them too. I wrote an essay to kind of talk about how there was a time when it seems like a long time ago. It wasn't all that long ago, but
really
when we were moving around in the subways and it was okay. I mean, of course, you have to be mindful. It's not that it was perfectly safe, but people felt comfortable. But then it turned into this horrific thing that the whole world is suffering. And and the thing is, I don't like the term the new normal. I don't want to accept this as a new normal or anything like that. I definitely want to not get back to normal, but get back to better.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that term, the new normal. And before we came on the air, you and I were talking about this, just in regards to Sesame Street, but just in art in general, like, and especially you're in the visual arts and working on television, working in entertainment, like just wondering, like, and we've talked about this with other folks, like in comic books, on television, in movies, like you're not using that term, the new normal, but like, how long will that be? How long and how will it be featured in the media that we consume going forward? Like obviously Sesame Street. We were speaking of Sesame Street is like, for a child like my little 7-year-old, he's gonna watch any new Sesame Street that comes on. We were watching like Hocus Pocus the other day, and he asked why the people were not being socially distant. That's an old movie.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
Yeah, but I mean, and kids notice this. So like something like Sesame Street, which really does work hard to be out there and educate, as well as entertain. Like Abby and Elmo and Big Bird, like, it's going to be interesting once things regain in the world, how that's addressed on television, and for the very young and people our age, like we were saying, Law and Order, like especially like in New York City, like, are people going to be wearing masks? Like it's interesting. We had a couple of Archie folks on a few weeks ago.
Nice.
And it was even like, are Archie and Jughead going to be wearing masks when they go to high school? It's really interesting. What do you think?
I think, this is what I hope. We have to acknowledge this. We have to remember this, especially so many people that we lost. But I don't think we should try to make it one of the threads in the tapestry of the world. I mean, it's in history. It's in the history books, and it's happening right now. But we do, when it is over, we have to celebrate it by saying, you know what, all right, we've gotten past that. Sorry for the losses and for the horrific time we lost, people, we lost a lot of different things. If we can rebuild it, put that behind us, remember, but just put it behind us. That's what I think. I don't think we're going to see a lot of that stuff, because look, just today they shut down production on Jurassic Park, the new Jurassic Park, because the people there are getting, the COVID virus is escalating over there. I don't think they're incorporating that in. They're going to try to create movies that are not going to show people wearing masks and socially distanced, because that's not the way we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be socially distanced. We're supposed to be able to hug each other and
correct
all that stuff,
Yeah, and I mean, like you say that, like these fantasy worlds, like who wants to go see the new Spider-Man movie with them all wearing? I mean, Spider-Man wears his mask, but we don't want to see everybody else wearing a mask. We want to see the actors, But
you're right, exactly.
It really is an interesting. It is an interesting time in the world of like media, because you really have, like, it's inspiring, because outside of COVID, there's a lot of other things that are going on in the world right now, which for creative people, this is really what's driving some of this creativity that it's going to be wonderful to see what happens in a year or two, to see like, all this stuff that comes out from the creative minds of this time period. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, now one thing we were talking about a few minutes ago, how you got to know the Sesame Street characters, and you said they all have different textures and feels to them. Tell us a little bit, because I know like people see like the pictures, like the picture we had to advertise this with, you and Elmo and Cookie Monster. Now those are not the actual puppets; those are posers. Like, tell us a little bit about what that is, and what does your job really entail with that? It's because it's more than just taking a toy or a doll and posing it. Like, how do you bring these pictures to life?
Well, again, because they are already so alive to me, I'm directing the shoot, and I have a woman named Pam Villiers who orchestrates the entire thing. She's the maestro of the photo shoots now. There was a time when I had to do everything myself, but now she takes care of it. So all I have to focus on and think about are the characters. And whenever I do that, even when I'm drawing them, I vanish. I become who it is, because again, they're my buddies. And I know them, they're in my heart really deeply. So like say Elmo, they give me a list. And normally I don't want them to tell me too much about what they want to do. But the people who are writing the lists, I don't want them to give me too much information, because I say this to people and it sounds kind of odd, but they tell me, Elmo tells me what he wants to do. I'll give you an idea. One, it was they had a Healthy Habits Initiative one day, right? It was also either STEM or I forgot what it was, but it was also like a bit of an engineering thing, combining engineering and healthy habits somehow. So it was Elmo with a wheelbarrow, and they wanted to incorporate apples somehow. I said, so what would you want to do? And of course, I don't think about what I want to do. I think about what Elmo's going to tell me he wants to do. So of course, one of the things I do is I order a lot of the props from Henson, and I love the Jim Henson Company. Oh, I love them so much. So they, so anyhow, I actually said, while I'm thinking about the photo shoot, they're already speaking to me. So Elmo told me ahead of time what to do with this shot. So I said, I want a whole bunch of red apples, but give me one green apple. So what it is a shot of Elmo with the wheelbarrow, and he's moving, but he's really excited because he found one green apple. He's really excited. He's holding it up really high. And so that was the shot, and they loved it, Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. It's not posing. They're called photo Muppets, and they're armature. They have armature wire inside of them. It's an aluminum wire that makes it so easy. It's very pliable. And of course, Laura's the woman named Laura McLean. She's the person that does most of the, or not all of it, but most of the armaturing. And she's just brilliant at it. I can sit there and know that when I get something she's worked on, I'm going to be able to do anything I need to do. So I'm free. The people that I work with, it really is a team effort. They make it so easy for me to just go in there and just vanish, so that Elmo can be Elmo and Abby can be. I even turn into Abby Cadabby. I mean, I even turn into Prairie Dawn. And the thing is, I know I watch the show. I still watch the show. Especially I have to watch a lot now because they've grown. They've evolved into different, I'm going to say people, monsters and animals. But again, I really take them seriously. I mean, even though it's fun, it's a great job. It's the dream came true. And with that, I take it as I've been entrusted with something very precious. I mean, these characters are cherished all over the world. So I know that when I go in there, I better get out of the way so they can be who they're going to be. So the world will recognize them. I do that when I'm drawing them. I do it when I'm posing. Actually, I call it a performance. It's a still performance. I'm not puppeteering from the inside. I'm puppeteering from the outside. And it's one moment in time that's capturing their personality. So it's kind of difficult to do.
Yeah.
Now I never feel that difficulty.
Now let me ask you. So again, like you're saying, you're puppeteering from the outside. So when Laura, correct? That's her name.
Laura McLean. Yes.
Laura McLean. But they all call her Lars, right?
Yeah, Laura, right.
But so my question is, so when she prepares the armature for the like Elmo, for instance, and so that is one of the actual performance puppets, or are these built specifically for these photo shoots that, or do they take one of the puppets and, because I assume even with some of the characters, like there are probably armatures in the actual puppet's fingers, like an Elmo or an Abby. Obviously, Bert and not Bert. Ernie's a little bit different, and Big Bird's a little bit different. But are these the actual? Are any of these actually the on-air versions that they use, or these are special for photos?
Yeah, we had to have some made, and they're made just for photo shoots. But there's the occasion where sometimes, like when there's a segment on the show called Elmo the Musical. I think they do show it occasionally still.
Yeah.
I had to do a photo shoot for that, and it was a 6-day photo shoot, and I had to have 3 Elmos on the set. While I was doing one setup, the other ones are being changed to the next costume. So we had to use for those I couldn't use the photo puppet, because the photo puppet the color is a little different than the puppets on set. Mm-hmm. Only because it's going to be a different lighting situation.
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah, different. But yeah, no, like we have Elmo, Cookie Monster. If I have to do the count though, by count, I have to use the real count.
Really?
Yeah, because they haven't made one just for photo shoots. For a long time, I had to use the real Oscar the Grouch because there was no. Now we have Oscar photo puppet, but for a long time I had, and it's like intimidating because these are the real guys, Yeah. And even, of course, it's my profession. I respect it, and I feel very confident doing it because I worked hard. And like I said, I've been studying for a long time, and because Jim Henson was so generous, I still watch. I watched Muppets on Puppets the other night. I have I think it's on season 1 of the show, or season whichever one. But I watched it again just to go back and see, because I want to stay close to the essence of what this is all about. So yeah, like Big Bird, we actually have a photo of Big Bird.
Gotcha.
And so because that costume, that Muppet has to be handled very carefully, especially the performance ones. So we have one, and during a photo shoot, I have to be pretty rough because the bigger ones are difficult to move. Mm-hmm. Cookie Monster is like a bear. When I'm wrestling with a bear when I'm Cookie Monster. I mean, he's nice to me. He doesn't bite or anything, but. So it's a mixture depending on what's going on. For the most part, they're photo Muppets, but I do have to occasionally like Telly Monster. Telly, there is no photo Telly. That is Telly. The one you see on TV is the one I work with.
Well, because that's what I was going to say. In the world of Sesame Street and the Muppets in general, there are just so many characters, and like you might do something with like a newer character or just a character that's an obscure, or even anything Muppet. Like, so they probably need to pull from that pool, just because they can't just have these extra ones laying around, because it's costly as well, I'm sure. I couldn't imagine how much an Elmo would cost, in the thousands.
What do you mean? That's my friend. What are you talking about?
But now, and you really brought up a good thing. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and you can definitely speak to this because you do work with them. They are your friends. Really, the difference between the Muppets and, like, say, Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny is because there are people who get the Muppets, there are people who don't get the Muppets, and like people sometimes will look at you funny when you say, like, Elmo or Miss Piggy, like they're real. They're like, no, they're not real, they're puppets. But no, they are real, because like you said,
people.
Elmo or Miss Piggy goes on with Jimmy Fallon, like you don't know what they're gonna do. Obviously Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse, that's going to be very scripted and planned because they have to create that essence. For Elmo or any of the Muppets, like you don't know what's going to happen next.
Exactly. I love that. Real personalities.
Yeah. So we have a couple more questions here from the chat. Look, Tao's dad just joined us. Hey there, Mahes. How are you tonight? He joined us in the watch party, so he's watching. Right. So we have 2 questions from Anthony Thompson. We'll ask this first one here. You've been involved with the Sesame web videos, correct? Do you think we'd get more videos like the Sesame 80s mashup video?
You know what? That's the production department. They're the ones that, well, no, you know what? It kind of starts with the education and research department, because this is a mission-driven company. We have to remember, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of play, but it's serious work that we do, and it's, it's impacting. I mean, people see it more now than they've seen it in a long time. But you know, they determine what's not just what's trending, but what, like, the Department of Education, they have initiatives that they're going to put out, and we try to line up with that, so that way it kind of lines up with what's happening in school. So, you know, I mean, the questions like that, I don't have an answer for, because again, I don't decide those things. It's just that it's exciting when they do it, and I get to be part of it. So
yeah, no, and absolutely, like you were saying, like there, like years ago. Season 30, I think it was. I have the coat still. I was a production intern, and I worked mostly on Dragon Tale. You didn't know that? I thought I told you.
Oh.
Like season 30, I'll have to show you a picture. I'll send you a picture of it. But
we're
yes.
family.
Season 30, I was a production intern over at Dragon Tales, and they had their office over where I think it's called the Paramount Building. It's in Times Square, where that like alien restaurant used to be on the bottom.
Oh yeah.
They had like a satellite office over there, and you know, like you're saying, there's, aside from Dragon Tales being in there, there's a lot of the home video department, I think, was in there, but there was also like educational research, and like I got to see some of the process, because like what we're seeing on Sesame Street now going into season 51, like they were thinking about like season 48, 47, like, because it is a process. They test it out with the kids. They test it out with educators. There's really, you know, they want it to be just right for what the kids get at home before it gets to you guys.
This is serious work. I mean, again, we have a good time. But look, you know what? I think it wasn't the first serious moment, but the most serious of all the moments at the beginning was when Mr. Hooper died.
Yeah. Now,
there was discussion about how we're going to handle that. You know, of course, I wasn't there yet, but, you know, they were saying, well, should we get another actor and to be in there? But they said, no, we can't do that. We can't lie to children. They're going to know something's different. So they dealt with the death of Mr. Hooper. It's still, to this day, I'm so proud of this company, because it's real life. Yeah, of course, we're having fun. And people love the Muppets, the Sesame Street Muppets in particular. They love Muppets. I'll just say that.
Oh.
The thing is that the things that we're dealing with, the things that, you know, the military initiatives and all the stuff we do, I mean, it's a serious work, that lives are being really enhanced because of the way we're able to bring information to them, to help parents explain things to their children. Even now with the whole COVID thing, you know, there's things we're doing even now. But it started, I think, when Mr. Hooper passed away. That was a big moment when, you know, they could have, there's so many things that could have, you know, Mr. Hooper moved away, or they could have done so many things. But what did we do? We dealt with it. We actually spoke to children, respecting them, giving them the truth. That's the only way to deal with children. You give them the truth. You talk to them, because you try to fool them. They're going to figure it out eventually. Or somehow in their heart, they'll know. So that's why I'm so grateful. So, you know, the dream came true, man.
Yeah,
it's bigger than I imagined.
I just want to say, Mahes says hey to both of us. Mahes Tao's dad.
Oh, hey.
And I just want to throw this up there, because you really brought up a good place, which I want to go to next. But I just want to give you a shout out from Ed Green, the insightful professional creator who brings ideas and dreams to life. Congratulations.
This is great, man.
Yeah. And we have a couple other questions we're going to come back to, but, you know, we're sitting here talking about the outreach and like the really real life topics that Sesame tackles. And a couple, like, I mean, like you were mentioning, like the military thing, like a lot of people don't know, like if you're just watching Sesame Street on HBO or PBS at this point, you know, like you see the regular Sesame Street, but there is a whole military initiative. There is a program for children that have parents who are incarcerated. Our good friend Leslie Carrera Rudolph shared with me Abby, because Abby is a child, her parents are divorced, you know, and obviously we see that with Rudy being her stepbrother. And the other thing that I want to go into, because you had your hand personally in this, is a creation of Julia. So how did that come about?
Girl.
She's with the stream crew.
Say again?
She's with the main stream crew of characters.
No, she's part of the Sesame family, full out. Well, the whole thing is that it's odd, because a friend of mine, I think it was Rachel Carter, it was Rachel London back in the day, but she actually saw in me that I could volunteer at the school she worked at with kids on the spectrum. And it was nice, you know, at first I was very nervous. I didn't know what to do. So she said, you just have to love them. And I said, I know I can do that. So I went, and of course I did. I loved all of them. but there were a couple in particular that I got to work with very closely. But I had no idea that Sesame had been working for many, many years already on the program, because that's another thing about Sesame Workshop. Some things we have to deal with right away, like what's happening now, or say Black Lives Matter. We want to address these things now so that we have materials or things we can help kids understand or notice what's going on and not get too scared, whatever, I can get into all that stuff, like 9/11, or we deal with all those different things. But with Julia, again, I just volunteered at the school, and one girl in particular just touched my heart so much. So I didn't make Julia look the way she looks. I made Julia look the way she made me feel, this little girl. But again, I didn't know that Sesame was working on that initiative for a long time. So then, I'd done that volunteer work. And then it wasn't that long afterwards that they came to me. They didn't know I was doing volunteer work at the school. And I got to work with the children in the school and at their homes. Again, Rachel really helped me to get immersed in this community. And it was really great, to be able to be that close and see what's going on. Because when I got the assignment to design Julia, and she wasn't originally going to be a Muppet, she was just going to be a character in a book. And I felt good about that. And because you know what, you can't, when people talk about the behaviors of the children on the spectrum, that means something different for everybody. So if she was just going to be a character in a booklet that we were doing to help with the initiative, I said that's fine. But then we decided we wanted a Muppet, and at first I didn't like the idea. So how are we going to represent the entire spectrum? Mm-hmm. But the idea was not to represent the spectrum, but to point to it, to bring attention to it. And I said I could get behind that so easily. So I got very excited about it. And then I started doing the sketches for Julia. The big challenge came when, again, I knew that Julia was not going to engage with the other characters the way, like, say, Elmo is right in your face, and you want him to be. She was not going to really engage with the viewers or with the other characters for the most part. So I said there has to be something that I can put in her design so that she can be immediately relatable. Mm-hmm. So I said, I know, if I give her human texture hair, the minute you see her, there's already a connection, a human connection with her, with that texture, even though it's this bright orange, which people have that color now too. I'm not sure it's natural, but anyhow. Thing is, and there was a bit of resistance at the beginning of that because, again, she's a Muppet. They wanted her to be part of the Muppet world. And I understood that, but she is, but again, she isn't, because there's something different. This is an initiative that we really have to handle very differently, even the features, of her face.
Respectfully. You have to handle it respectfully for these families.
Yeah, exactly right. So I didn't want to look odd. I just want to look different, so that there was something different going on. So I gave her a different angle of her eyes. If you see her nose, it's very subtle, but it's a diamond shape because she's a diamond in the rough. Is the way I saw it. Gotcha. I didn't say any of this to anybody. I just said I did the sketches and everything like that, and they picked the one that I really wanted it to be picked. And it worked out beautifully. So the human texture hair was something that really worked out well because the minute you see her, you feel warm toward her. She's like a real little girl because of that hair. And then they asked me to design her whole family, which is really, really, really exciting too. Because again, I got to think about the families, the moms and the dads that I got to talk to and interact with, the siblings. It was really just immersive. It's probably the most immersive experience I ever had when designing a character. Mm-hmm. Really, really great to do that. So I'm really, really so grateful that I got to give her look.
Yeah, and let me just ask too, and definitely a shout out too. Both Anthony and Josh are sitting here talking as we're talking about Julia, talking about Stacey Gordon, who's Julia's performer, and she has a really influential story as to bringing Julia to life. And how did you work with her in creating this character?
Well, again, my job was around, I think, before they even did the auditions. I'm trying to think of how to put this. Well, again, the story was written. They were writing a lot of scripts and descriptions about her. All the research went into this before they even went out to give. Again, at the beginning, she wasn't even going to be a Muppet. She was just going to be an illustrated character. What's great though is that when I watched Stacey's her friend. I know she's a performer, but they're also very good friends.
Yes.
Watch Stacey's performance, and it's just mesmerizing the way she brings these subtle little things to her.
Mm.
And again, well, I won't get into anything personal, but certainly it's about watching the show and watching, because I get to, well, not right now, but back then I would be on the set and I could watch the performance and I could see what she was doing, how she was bringing Julia to life. That very first, her introduction is just magnificent. And Alan's so good, I love it. Morocco boy, I directed a photo shoot with him, and I he posted it on Facebook, and I told him I got to direct these Muppets and this big beautiful kid, and that's Alan.
He has a heart of gold, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, he is gold. He has a big heart.
Absolutely. And just like, and shouting him out, like, all really that whole human cast of Sesame Street, Bob McGrath, Roscoe Orman, all of them, it's just
every one of them,
like truly living legends.
Yeah.
And some of them have been there for full 50 years, like Bob and Susan, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. And I love them. They're really beautiful people. Whenever I get to go to visit the set and they're there, first I'm in awe. It's really them, and then within seconds, like we're old friends, and we just are hugging and kissing each other and having a good time. It's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful family. It's a big family, but boy, and you're part of it too. I didn't know. I did not know you were into it. Once you cross through Sesame, your family. That's it.
Well, and for me personally, like, it was an honor to do that, and then having friendships with you and a lot of the other folks that work on Sesame, like it's again, just like yourself, growing up watching this stuff. And then having a connection to it, like, and it's like, wow, it's amazing. And like, you see that behind the scenes part of it, like the love, the dedication, the family that it really is. So we have a couple of questions here we definitely want to get to. So Anthony wants to know, and I don't know if you know anything, it's more of a production thing probably. Since the production of season 51 resumed this month, are there still plans to film the feature that was supposed to be filming this year? He's hoping that the movie gets made, because from what I understand, in April they were supposed to start a movie, right, and that now got pushed back. And that I don't know if you have any updates on that or not.
I personally do not have any updates on it, and there are certain things I guess I don't want to really touch on, because I don't know what the situations are at the time. So I'd rather not touch on that one. But I'm looking forward to, if that is going to happen, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I think just for all television, it's just a matter of time at this point. Things will resume, just when the world resumes, essentially. When the world resumes. But this is a really good question from Josh Hankemeyer. He wants to know, did you have a chance to discuss art and drawing techniques with Carol Spinney? Because some people don't know that Carol was a great, amazing cartoonist before he was on Sesame Street. So did you get to talk art with Carol?
Yeah, we talked about so many different things. Carol was the very first performer that I got to meet. And my first day on the set, 1993, was it? Yeah, 1993 is when I first went to the set. I had already been working for about a year.
So you were there when I was there.
Why you say hi, man?
Who knew? Anyways, yeah. But anyways, Carol.
Yeah. At the very beginning, he fell in love with my son, because my son had these great questions and everything. So Carol took him behind Oscar's camp, put the Muppet on him. I got a little jealous because I had not touched the Muppet yet, and my son was working Oscar the Grouch inside the can, which he did a great job. I mean, but Carol and I spoke a lot about art, but again, because when you talk about art with certain people, you're talking about like techniques and things like that, but it's really about the love and that goes into doing the work. That's really what we talk more about, because he was just a ball of love, Carol Spinney. Absolutely. And but the thing is, I had done about 3 different pieces of artwork that the company asked me to do for him. Like when he won his Lifetime Emmy Award, Lifetime Achievement Award, they asked me to do a piece of artwork to celebrate that. So I drew, how the Emmy Award had, the big globe. Mm-hmm. The big globe, and then there's the base. So what I did was I drew Carol holding the globe, but the globe was Big Bird's head.
Oh wow!
And the base was Oscar's garbage can lid, and you see him peeking out a little bit from the bottom. So that really, Carol loved it.
That's great.
And I did one just because I love him so much. And when he turned 80, I did a giant black and white drawing for him. Mm-hmm. And he just loved it. And I did a couple other pieces, but he said that he hung a lot of stuff in his house, and it's just to know that my artwork. I mean, a lot of other artists too. He collected artwork, but to know that he loved the artwork so much, when we started doing behind the scenes videos, they asked Carol if he could do it. They said, Louis, why don't you ask him, because you guys are pretty tight. Ask him and see what he says. I said, I'm sure he had no problem. So I said, Carol, would you like to do like a behind the scenes interview for these series of videos we're doing? And he said, only if you do it with me, Louis. And I laughed. He says, no, I'm serious. I said, Carol, you need me. Carol's meeting. He said, no, come on, let's talk. Let's just talk. Okay. We talked, and within a few seconds, we forgot about the camera. We started reminiscing about the first time we met, my son. I gotta find that video. It's somewhere in the company, in the office. I gotta find that video. It's just he's like a cherished person in this world. He didn't need me to do the interview, but he's just that generous. He was just such a sweet man. I miss him so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can share one of my favorite. And I met Carol several times. A few years ago, I was able to bring some of my students from school. I was working in the Bronx to the Sesame set, and what's that?
You're a great teacher. That's great.
Well, and again, big shout out to our friend Leslie, because she really made that possible for these kids from the Bronx. But she was walking us around, and Carol was there that day, and he had Oscar, and like these kids, they're middle school kids. They were just like in awe, and like you just said, like how he was. The one thing Leslie said, and it's true, it's like he is like he I mean, unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but he was like TV royalty. He is TV royalty because he was with presidents, he was with, like, you name the celebrity, Bob Hope, whoever, like just his presence and the life and the love that he brought through Big Bird. And I don't know if we're gonna say love through Oscar, I guess, right? Definitely through Big Bird.
That's true. Oscar loved trash. He loves,
Don't tell Oscar that we're talking about loving him in the same word.
But about trash, because he loves trash.
Exactly. I have this. I joke with my son because Disney owns the Muppets. I always joke with him. He's like, "Who's your favorite princess?" And I'm like, "Miss Piggy." And he's like, "She's not a princess." I'm like, "Don't tell Miss Piggy that."
Really don't. You get a karate chop, man.
But we have another question from Anthony. He wants to know, what classic characters were you excited to see return in the Sesame 50th anniversary special? Any classic characters that you're happy to see?
My favorite, Ernie was my favorite, the first one first, and then with Cookie Monster. But Forgetful Jones was, boy, I just loved him. That was Richard Hunt's character back in the day, and he just did a phenomenal job. He just had me laughing. Well, at one time, Maria said to him, "Oh, hi, Forgetful, how are you?" He said, "Oh, hi, Stanislaus," and like as if that was her name. And so naturally, like with total confidence, that character made me laugh. But Roosevelt Franklin was great to see him, man. That was just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Don Music. I mean,
another Richard Hunt character.
Question.
We have now, and this is actually a pretty good segue into some of the other stuff that you work in. And Josh says, "Thank you for answering the question about Carol."
Oh, sure.
So Joe wants to know, and we could talk about this because you are an educator as well. He's trying to break into the world of character design. What's the best advice you can give to a new artist in terms of what should they include in a portfolio to present to studios, stuff like that? So, and let's talk a little bit about your role as an educator and what you're doing now with that. Sure.
Well, first I want to answer that question. It's a good question. And unfortunately, the answer I give is probably not one that people usually like to hear. To give advice is really precious. I consider that sacred, because before you give advice, especially as an educator, you want to know who you're talking to. You want to know what their aspirations are. You got to know more. You have to earn the right to be able to give someone advice. I mean, this is a life you're talking about somebody who's going to start walking a certain way. You got to know more about who they are, what they want to do, what their aspirations are, because character designs, it runs a tremendous gamut. What kind of characters do you like? I mean, like I fell in love with the Muppets. I mean, I was in love with them even before I knew about Jim Henson. When I saw him, that thing clicked. And yeah, I had some challenges throughout my career, but I never, ever gave up. And thank goodness I had the mom that I had, because she would never let me give up. She had a challenge too, wanted to become a nurse. So she overcame that. So whenever I got discouraged, she would always, well, no, you can keep going. Just keep going. My father wasn't really into me becoming an artist, but mom said, no, don't pay attention to anyone. Just keep going. Mm-hmm. And that's the greatest advice. You love something, that's an indicator. Your heart's going to tell you what you're here for. You don't have to you don't have to try to figure out what you're going to do here. You discover it. Your heart, the things you love, the things you don't love, those are indicators about what it is that you're supposed to be going in a specific direction. Yeah. So that's why I tell people all the time, what do you really love? What kind of characters? If you're a character designer, I mean, I speak to people who do all kinds. I even speak to lawyers, because again, you're creating a life. It's not your artwork is a result of your life. So you create your life, and your life starts to blossom in the thing that you're here to do. And the thing is, fortunately, I had a mom that was really, really encouraging. My dad wasn't encouraging about me becoming an artist. And I know there's a lot of people out there who they have these big aspirations, these big dreams, and those dreams get kind of squashed. Sometimes they get squashed really early, even in childhood. So I just try to tell people, look, something, if there's something that you love, something that's charging you, something that really motivates you, that's telling you at least part of what you're here to do, what you're here to be involved with. I didn't know when that crazy passion that I had for the Muppets was going to turn to me becoming the creative director for. I wanted to work for Jim Henson, but I wanted to be on Sesame Street. And I told a college professor that, who I thought was like my hero teacher. And he said, "Oh, Louis, you're never going to get that. You're aiming way too high. I mean, I believe in you, but you're aiming way too high. Aim lower so you can actually achieve these goals. But Sesame Street, come on, man. I don't want you to break your own heart." It took me a while to get through it. For a little bit of time there, I thought maybe he's right, because it took me 8 months until I finally found the right person, a man named Jim Mahan. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jim Mahan, I love that man so much, because he saw my work, and he very soft-spoken, but a powerhouse of an artist. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that he hired me and gave me this I had to draw a little Ernie for a sneaker. It was my first assignment as a freelance artist. And that was the biggest job in the world to me, because I got in there. And I finally told my dad, I said, "Dad, I know you didn't think I was going to be able to get that job, but I'm working now for Sesame Street." Mm. My father, he gave me the greatest gift he ever gave me. He actually admitted he was wrong about discouraging me. Wow. And that's all I needed from him. He did me a huge favor by saying that, because he never admitted anything about being wrong about anything. Gotcha. So it's really, you go back in there, you find, because again, people are going to tell you a lot of different things about what you should do, what you shouldn't do. I really believe that people find out when they're children what they're going to be doing. I really believe that. But a lot of times, life can be pretty distracting and even brutal sometimes. Absolutely. But if you can just try to hold on to that child, hold on to that kid. I'm still 6 years old. I was 6 years old, when I discovered Jim Henson. I never grew up from there. You can see I have like comic books and toys and things. You saw my Cookie Monster toy. Yeah, and the thing, I can get serious. I definitely get serious, because again, when I'm speaking to people about the kinds of things they want to do with their life, I'm listening very intently, because I want to learn. I don't want to give them my advice, because some things may work for me that might not work for them. Yeah. The more I hear from them, then I know how to encourage them toward that direction. Now, of course, you want to be a character designer, please draw a lot. Draw a lot. And I'm talking about traditional drawing. Digital drawing is wonderful. It's a great tool. But there's nothing like the organic process of putting pencil to paper. And Drew Struzan, my buddy, the famous movie poster artist, he likes to say that he always, even his work looks almost photographically realistic sometimes. But if you look carefully, you see the spatters. Sometimes you might even see like a fingerprint in there. He wants people to see the human hand behind the artwork, because there's something about that immediacy when you're drawing with paper. And again, I can take that and go into the computer, because a couple of months ago, I had to do a whole series of vector art drawings of Julia and her whole family. Mm-hmm. But I start with the piece of paper and a pencil, just like I did when I was a little boy. Mm-hmm. A little boy in my heart. So I'm sorry, I can't give specific advice. If some people reach out to me, I might be able to help some people. I can't wait to actually do more because I do. I'll talk about this. I'm planning to start an art school, and that school will. It's not going to be what people think, because an art school is usually people think you go there and learn how to draw. Well, I can speak to photographers. I can speak to writers. I can speak to dancers. They're all artists. The thing I'm talking about is what happens before that first step of the dance, and that first mark of the pen. What happens before that? What do you have to do to prepare yourself against all the naysayers that don't get a vote, and the people that people who are in your tribe members are the people who are going to encourage you toward the things that you want to do. And they're the people you don't hold anything against anybody. My father just didn't understand, and I love my dad. He just didn't get it. Mom got it. Mom was the head of my tribe because she's the one that kept encouraging me to go in that direction. So again, I went that long because again, when people ask for advice, it's too sacred to just throw something out there. Like, I got to know what it is you want to do. What have you discovered in you that you want to do?
That inner passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, perfectly said. And I remember, back in the early days of New York Comic Con, before it became, and we were talking about how this weekend would have been Comic Con weekend. Sad for all of us fans out there. And I know I ran into you several times on the floor, and we did a couple of panels at New York Comic Con and workshops. And the one thing when I think of you, and you touched upon this a little bit, being that inner 6-year-old kid. I remember on one of the panels that we did, you said that since being at Sesame Street, or maybe just in general, like you haven't worked a day in your life. I remember that was a really strong comment that you said.
Yeah, and people have criticized me for saying that, because again, what we do at Sesame Street, it is work, and it's serious work, and it's mission-based work. But my dream, I've followed the Muppets my whole life, since I'm a 6-year-old boy, not my whole life. But when I was 6, I started really getting into it, even before that. But it doesn't feel like, put it this way, it doesn't feel like work. The hardest day I ever had when I had to direct 2 photo shoots on the set at Kaufman Astoria, where the show was taped and recorded. And we're doing a fashion shoot, and also there was a magazine covering the shoot. They had their own setups, and I also had to direct the big setups with the model and the designer and the photographer. I mean, it was huge. And I mean, my name was being, Louis, we need you there and everything. And I don't mean to get vulgar here, but even going to the bathroom, I heard my name over the loudspeaker. Louis Mitchell, we need you on set. I can't even go to the bathroom. But I giggled, I laughed, and I ran back on set. And there was a moment where, again, it was absolute chaos. I mean, again, these are professionals. I mean, I didn't have to think about a lot of what I had to do except focus on the characters. But it was like everywhere. And I had to pay attention to the setup that the magazine needed. Like the magazine people were over there by the newsstand. And was that the 2-headed monster? I can't remember now the whole thing, but it was just a big. Anyhow, there was one moment where everything is kind of either a break or whatever. There was a lull, and I'm standing like in the middle of the set, and I'm looking around, and I've got this big goofy grin on my face. And one of the interns came and said, "Mr. Mitchell, why are you smiling? Everybody's pulling at you. You can't get a break. You can't get a rest." I said, "You know why I'm smiling? Right now, I'm the most important man on Sesame Street." Man, again. I got home and I conked out, but boy, did I feel good to do. Again, every time I go to that set, it's not a set. That's Sesame Street. That's the street to me. Yeah. Elmo, Cookie Monster, they're my friends. They're not, they're Muppets. I'm not going to ever put that away because that's exciting part. It's Jim Henson's work. Every time I say Muppet, I think Jim Henson. But this is a real world to me, and it's the world that I wanted to get into, and I got in there. So that's why I said there were so many people that were against it. My teacher was against it. My father was against it. There were a lot of other people too, but those were the 2 people that I thought were going to really be cheerleaders for me. Thank goodness Mom was. She didn't let anybody talk me down. Even though I was still very insecure, Mom said, "No, don't pay it." a lot of times parents might overdo it. Like, I can't believe people are telling you things like that. They shouldn't be discouraging you. She didn't even give it that much weight. Anytime somebody says something negative, oh, don't pay attention to that. Just keep going. That was in my head. So whenever somebody said something negative, and they don't get it, I'll just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, like, and I think probably one of the biggest takeaway, and Joe said, thank you for the inspiring, heartfelt, and meaningful words of advice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We said, I got to thank you again for really taking the time to explain that. That came from the heart. And yeah, like you were saying, like, it's a passion, it's coming from your heart, and really never give up on your dreams, because you never know where those things are going to take you, really.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, dreams are not fantasies. Dreams are seeds. And if you take that seed and you plant it in the right part of your heart, and then, you know, like any other thing, you have to weed it out. So if somebody comes and says, you can't do that, that's just a weed. What do you do with a weed? You pluck the weed out and you throw it away. You don't stop and yell at the weed, you know, burn that energy that you could be putting into, you know, the plant. You know, just take the weed out, water it nicely, you know. Like I said, when I still water my word by every morning I get up. I'll tell you, I get up at 4:15 in the morning. Wow. Because I can't wait to get to work. And I do my workout, you know, I do even like some spiritual meditations. I do a lot of different things like that to get myself ready. You see a piano in the background, right? I must play the piano. Maybe I try not to go past an hour, but sometimes it's so much fun. But I make sure that I keep the hours that I promised Sesame Workshop. So even though I'm working from home, I keep my regular hours. When I take a lunch break, I might go ahead and go back to the piano or something like that. But the thing is, I make sure every morning is very structured. But part of that structure is to draw and to make sure that I'm drawing lots of different things. I go online, I find lots of different models to draw from. I might even practice some cartoons, you know, things like that. Whatever I feel. Again, I'm not trying to figure it out. I'm listening to what's happening inside here. You get a lot of what you need. I think everybody is born with the thing they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And if you just don't, the noise out there is what really starts to get in the way, so that you can't hear it. But I think everybody's got something, or maybe it's faint and it comes later on, you know, and later on you start to hear it more and more. But as long as you have at least one person, like I had my mom.
Yeah.
And I had my 8th grade art teacher, Mrs. Landau. She was the best art teacher I ever had, even when I went to college. She was still and we were friends till she died. Mm-hmm. You know, which about maybe 7 years ago. But you know, you just gotta, you find the thing you're here for, and you wrap your life around it. And the result, because look, you know what? No matter what, you're gonna be challenged. You're gonna sometimes have some hardships. You're gonna have. Mm-hmm. Why not have those hardships on the path you're supposed to be on? Because if you pick a path that somebody else chooses for you, you're still gonna have hardships and things, but you're gonna get beaten up on that path. If you're on your path and you get those same hardships, it's refining you, it's testing you, it's showing you your own commitment. It's telling you that, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because even though I really having a hard time in life, like I said, there were times in my career where it was really, really difficult, mm-hmm. challenging financially, but the thing is, I love it so much. And because of my mom telling me, don't pay attention. You know what? Even to me, don't pay attention to me when I was starting to come down on myself. Mm-hmm. Don't pay attention to anyone that's trying to, because obviously I was here for this particular reason. Right. And mom safeguarded that so that I could actually stay on the path. And it turned into this beautiful, beautiful opportunity. And now I get to talk to people through your, you know, this is just.
And like you said, like, oh, excellent. And I mean, I'm just, there's some feedback coming in here. Josh says, this is all excellent advice. Thank you. And I mean, we flew through this hour, so this is great.
We're done?
Yeah, it's like 9:30 already. Look at it. We're having fun. But no, certainly, like, such wonderful words of wisdom, and, you know, inspirational for like all the young artists that are watching us, young at heart. One person does ask, and I know we have your Facebook information down there, and I don't know. Rick wants to know, would love a drawing. Do you sell your art? Do you do commissions? Anything like that ever?
I don't do commissions right now. I have sold some pieces, but right now, again, because I'm working for Sesame Workshop, and I'm also developing a lot of my own projects, so I don't really have time to do things like that. Occasionally, I've done gifts that I've given away, but I don't, do specific commissions and things like that. But who knows? Maybe someday.
Yeah. Oh, when Comic-Cons get running again, right?
Yeah. Okay. When Comic-Con comes back, I'll do commission.
Well, hopefully this time next year will be a Comic-Con. Hopefully. So certainly anybody that wants to get in touch with you, Lewis, we have the Facebook information down there, Lewis Henry Mitchell. And like you said, there's going to be more information coming about these programs in school that you'll be starting up in the near future. And certainly we'll share that out through our means at Incredicon too. So it's interesting.
You're great, Mike.
No, listen, you're great. And I appreciate you coming on and spending the time with us tonight. Because I know you're a really busy guy with all the stuff that you do.
This is part of why I'm here. This is part of it. This is not too busy for this kind of thing.
No, much appreciated. And again, on behalf of everybody who joined us tonight,
thank you, folks. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the questions. That was great.
Yeah. So again, thank you. And Anthony just gave us a thumbs up on the live stream too. Anthony runs a great comic shop here in the Hudson Valley, Alternaverse, who's like behind all of the events that we do. But check out Alternaverse, folks. Yeah. So, and Josh says, thank you. Please stay healthy and safe as well.
Oh, all of you too. Thank you so much.
And Rick, thank you. So yeah, we have a lot of great thoughts coming in. But again, Lewis, thank you so much for tonight. This was great. And I mean, we can definitely have you back on here again once the school gets started. We'll talk about that then too. Quickly before we go tonight, I just want to let everybody know, go to the Incredicon Facebook page and the Instagram page. We announced our event October 24th. So Lewis, you're welcome to join us if you want to come up this way.
I'll be there.
And come and support that. And let me just put out for next week, we have Jewel Hallemeyer from SCTV. Did you watch SCTV, Lewis?
Yeah. Wow.
He was the Jewel Hallemeyer dancers who danced with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. He was with us next week.
How do you get this? Is great, man.
The beautiful internet. Will be with us Thursday. Absolutely. So again, Lewis, thank you so much for tonight. And everybody watching, thank you for joining us. And we will see you all next week. Be well.